Exactly. And half of these comments calling for violence are probably by these very same people anyway, the ones coming from the militia, armed assault websites, places like that, and then they just mix it in with peaceful, non-violent criticism of healthcare reform, and then call for a major national law enforcement operation against people who dissent.
Well,
it's
clearly,
out in the open fascism.
Clearly, this is a new level. This should send alarm flags and bells, going off everywhere. This is a red alert, and it's clear. I mean, they now admit what was in the Homeland Security MIAC reports from over a year ago is the national policy. In fact, pull it up for people watching on PrisonPlanet.tv. FBI director says domestic groups as big a threat as Al-Qaeda. Obama says that we're supposedly working with Al-Qaeda with suitcase nukes that I guess we made in our kitchens or something, and that we're racist. Glenn Beck separately saying that 9/11 truthers want to kill Obama with no proof. So it is just entering the bizarro world. And we saw all this hype before there was any violence. And then Joe Stack, very suspicious. The Pentagon shooter, very suspicious. All of this very suspicious. They clearly want to use Homeland Security in a type of Nazi or / red purge. The Southern Poverty Law Center 2 days ago put out a hit list against myself and others. And so they are really getting everybody ready to stage the terror attacks and try to arrest us en masse. And which I guess with some people is going to elicit people defending themselves, and then that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy of terrorism.
And it's the case that the ADL and the SPLC have gone from tracking, these ragtag, toothless skinheads, neo-Nazis, which were an extreme minority, but they did exist. Now the public's awake to the fact that they're no threat to anyone whatsoever. So wholesale, they've completely shifted over into demonizing people who mildly criticize Obamacare. So what they're doing is just out in the open, and it's only going to discredit them in the long run.
Well, I agree with you, Watson, and if they do set me up and try to arrest me, everybody carry on at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. If they do set me up or kill me or arrest me, they'll then have all the COINTELPRO reveal themselves even more. That will be useful on the Patriot websites that are government-controlled. Will attack me at that point because it's, again, the image of someone who's real, who's had an effect against the New World Order. They don't want other people to see what I've done as a model of success, so the image of Alex Jones has to be demonized on all fronts and destroyed. But, again, that won't even work, so I can sleep well and die well if they do kill me, knowing that we have dealt them grievous blows.
Exactly, but the fascist nature of what they're doing is inherent in the fact that they're publishing hit lists of people like Ron Paul. I mean, this is a mild-mannered congressman, and they're basically saying he's a terrorist. These people are out of their minds. And, of course, another...
Well, no, Paul, they're not out of their minds. They control Northcom and Homeland Security and 400,000 domestic troops, and they run all the local police departments, and they got the cops eating out of their hand, and they're getting ready to... The globalists are getting ready to blow some stuff up, so... it seems crazy until you enter into the equation. They're going to the people controlling our federal government are getting ready to stage terror attacks. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, as you say, they're crazy like foxes, but they're desperate, and you can tell. I mean, another motivation is the fact that the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law Center have all these lucrative government tie-ins. They need to keep dangling these extremist boogeymen in front of the American people to keep receiving their funding, to keep getting the donations. If these people didn't exist, then they'd cease to exist because the funding had stopped. And they're directly tied into the federal fusion centers and the police groups that they feed this information to. So now they're calling for peaceful political activists to be targeted by law enforcement for having opinions about high taxes and health care. It's gone completely over the line.
Well, it has, Watson, and it just shows the hot nature. For those that don't know what that means, this is not a cold war against the American people by the banks. This is now going into a hot war, and they're now phrasing the debate so that they can blame us for what they're about to do and then come out physically against us. And they're just everywhere calling for our arrest, calling for shutting down freedom on the Internet, because they've decided to go ahead with their complete bankruptcy and takeover and reorganization of the United States. And it's just too bad the public got so decadent and dumbed down, or they would have never allowed this to happen. I mean, if the general public, who's starting to wake up, had any idea just how serious it is, they would be 100 times more concerned.
Right. The amazing thing about it is that, I mean, everybody's talking about a new world order. In this report, it says if you talk about fascism or socialism or a new world order, then that's the big red flag that you're in with the domestic terrorists. You've just released a film, Invisible Empire, that has, at least 200 different examples of politicians, leaders, and business people and globalists calling for a new world order. So if you talk about it in a positive light, then, you know, you're part of the mindset of the elite, and that's good. But don't you dare criticize it because you're a domestic terrorist and it doesn't exist anyway.
Well, they're throwing the gauntlet down to the yuppies and well-to-do people and intellectuals, and they're saying, look, we're taking this country completely over. It's going to be a hot police state, and we're going to start arresting people, and we're going to have purges. And if you criticize world government or say you don't want banks taking over, we may arrest you. And we've built FEMA camps, and we're going to do it. And, you know, I hadn't talked about this yet. You know, he didn't really ask me not to talk about it, but I wanted to see what unfolded first. But Jeff Goldberg, who's one of the main people that put, I mean, even in mainstream news, he's credited with writing the reports for major national publications. He writes for Atlantic Monthly right now. For writing the major articles about WMDs being real. He was an Israeli prison commander, and he's an Israeli army officer. And I mean, he was here, and it was like an ADL assessment. I mean, he came to say he's interviewing me for Atlantic Monthly, and it was literally an assessment. And I said, no, I'm not violent, but I don't like what you guys are doing. And I said, you know, this is my country, and I don't want to be a slave. And I said, and you know, what the globalists are doing is wrong. And he's gotten all these ADL awards. And he acted real friendly till right at the end of the interview. And I'd seen this with media a lot. And at the end, he got very cold with me, you know, when he left. But I mean, you know, they're flying. I mean, he's a top level, you know, neocon, flying them down here to sit there and I guess decide what they're going to do to me. And you know, the FBI-run white supremacist groups are calling for my death. I mean, I've got Israel attacking me. I got the white supremacists attacking me, all because I don't want to be a slave and my family to be slaves. So, Watson, this is a very, very dangerous time when I've got Israeli army officers, you know, here at my office. I mean, it's getting creepy, Watson. And I agreed to meet with them because, you know, it's like a foreign government coming to talk to me. And I just said, look, I mean, you know, what you're doing's wrong, what the government's doing's wrong, and I'm a good person. And he's like, well, I realize that and understand that. You know, but it's just, but still, it's like he's a foreign army and I'm the evil American, and that's the end of it. You know, it's kind of like two soldiers across the line smoking cigarettes, talking to each other. And what do you say to that, Watson?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. They're trying to silence their political opposition. They don't care about violent extremist threats. If anything violent did happen, then they'd be the ones to benefit from it. So, you know, we're the opposition, we're the enemy. They have to shut down our free speech to get their agenda ran through. And that's why they're characterizing everybody as extremists and terrorists, because it's designed to chill free speech.
And this is an act of terrorism itself, saying Ron Paul and Napolitano are basically terrorists. They say they're terrorists. I mean, this is... they're terrorists? Come on. Thank you, Watson.